Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Antimatter Games podcast. I am your host, Chris Jagiris, and I am joined, as always, by Samantha OnlyFans Jennings and Matthew Benjamin Cisco Blake.
Oh,
How you guys
I'll
doing
take that.
today? Yeah, I figured you would like that.
Yeah,
How's everyone doing today?
We're good. Very, very good.
great.
So we're going to open the podcast today with a question for you guys. Just popped into my head earlier. When the coronavirus started up, we decided to start a gaming channel and stream and make podcasts and all that kind of stuff and reaction videos. It's something I wanted to do for a long time. Now that we've put a couple months behind us, I was just curious how you guys felt about the whole experience. Are you enjoying it? Is it what you expected? What are things that were unexpected that have come up? You know, as far as community involvement and the experience? Tell me about it.
Well, I've had a lot of fun with it. I've had a lot of experience with online communities, I would say. Between like cosplay and Harry Potter and stuff, a lot of my friends I've met either like through Instagram or online in some way. I love the ability of the internet to connect people. So having a lot of people transition from Instagram and coming to watch us on stream has been really, really fun, especially because I haven't been able to like interact with a lot of these people. So it's nice playing video games and having people like watch and chat and comment. Because that's something I really miss as a grown-up, is like not having people just come over and like couch co-op with you and sit and play video games. That was like one of my favorite things to do. And grown-ups are boring and don't want to do that anymore. So it's nice that people can come sit and watch you play. So it's been really fun.
Matt?
Yeah. I just sort of did this because it was something to do, and actually that's probably one of my favorite things. Like it's nice to have like stuff to do. You know, like today we're doing this podcast. Later on, we're going to play some Souls. You know, it's nice to have some sort of, with everything kind of shut down, other than work, there's really not much to do. So it's definitely helped kind of fill the void. I would probably be playing video games anyways, but it kind of forces me to play games I wouldn't normally play, or to think more. You know, like just playing Dark Souls and realizing like, I have to be able to explain these things that I just sort of know and find those words. It's been very interesting. I like, actually kind of like our small little community and how, you know, you get to see the same people coming back over and over again. It's kind of nice. It's weird when they're not there.
Yeah, it is.
I'm enjoying it. I don't know. It's just sort of fun. I'd probably do this even if no one was watching. It's enjoyable to me.
Yeah.
I had a Facebook memory actually that popped up like 2 days ago, and I had posted that like all I wanted was a group of people to play video games with online on like a regular basis, and I posted that 4 years ago. So this has been great that it actually finally happened, and like I love that we've been streaming regularly on like Mondays, Fridays, and Saturdays. Like it gives me something to look forward to throughout the week, because especially being like a PlayStation person, a lot of that gaming is by yourself, and it's enjoyable, but like sometimes it gets really lonely. So it's nice, even if you are gaming by yourself or playing like a single player game, having people in chat watching and enjoying it with you adds a whole other element to it, which is really nice.
All right. For me, I'd say, I mean, I would echo a lot of the same things that you guys just said. And speaking to that memory that you said popped up, it's the same for me, right? Like, I am at the gym a lot. I'm a personal trainer. The people I associate with don't generally play video games or aren't nerdy, but that is, outside of work, the kind of person that I am. So I love video games. They're everything to me. So when like I said, I've always wanted to do this, and I've always loved video games, but it really came together for me when I started watching GameTrailers.com back in the day, and then streaming was just kind of starting back then, and you go to see the same people every week, and you get connected with them, and they feel like they're your friends. And for me, it's like I had no other friends that played video games. I had no one else to have these conversations with except for maybe you, Matt. But that's still just one person, right? And you're not always available. And I have these things to say and talk about, and things happen in the video game scape that you want to vocalize. So this has been great for me to do that and be able to voice my opinions and just talk about the things I love and be able to be involved in it 24/7, and that's super rewarding so far. I really enjoy it. And then having our own little community and having people show up to see you and just hang out and talk and all that, that's great too. It's been a really cool experience.
Yeah. Also super sexy Sven.
Sexy Sven, yeah. Okay, so The Last of Us Part 2 came out a couple weeks ago. Naughty Dog always gets a lot of flack, for good and for worse, for making video games that could, people like to say just be movies, basically. Like, why is this even a game? You should just make a movie or a show or whatever. So I wanted to ask you guys, what movies would you like to see Naughty Dog make into a game? If you could pick.
Ooh, well, it's not out yet. And I don't
Are you going to say
know how
Dune?
it would work. Yeah, I was going to say Dune. And I don't even know how that would work because, I mean, Dune lends itself to a different style of game. It could work. Maybe I'd do a side character. Let me think of something else. Actually, no, someone else go while I think.
Sam?
Off the top of my head, the first game or movie that I would love to play as a game would be 300.
Ooh.
By far. Not that it's a very story-heavy game, or would be a very story-heavy game, but I think it would lend itself really well to kind of like what you saw in The Last of Us, where there was really, really good story moments, and then just brutal fight scenes and things to fight through. And I think it would lend itself really well to that. And it's it could be super stylized. It would look great as a game. And it would just have those really impactful fight scenes. So definitely 300 would be one of them for sure.
For me, I hadn't put a lot of thought into this when up until I asked the question, to be honest with you, but Lord of the Rings popped into my head immediately. I think Lord of the Rings would be amazing for a developer like Naughty Dog to do and to make a Last of Us or Uncharted style game.
Yeah.
It's perfect, right? Because you'd be able to have that raw, visceral combat of the sword fighting and bow and arrow and magic and all that stuff, and it would look, all the landscapes would look beautiful. But then Lord of the Rings is about this long adventure, a long journey, right? And that, I think, lends itself really well to a more linear single player narrative style game.
Yeah.
And I can just picture, going through Emyn Muil with Frodo and Sam, or through the Dead Marshes, or chasing after Merry and Pippin as Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas, and just going through those environments. That'd be really awesome.
That would be pretty good.
Yeah, I think.
How
be my
long
number
do you
one.
think that game would be? 100+ hours?
You mean those games?
Those games, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Pie in the Sky, I'd love it. This is obviously never going to happen, but I'd love it if they did 3 different games for each book, and then each game was 30 hours.
Yeah.
30, 40 hours, long.
Yeah.
You really it really would make you feel like you're taking your time and working your way through these spots. Whereas in the movies, and I love them to death, you blow through them really quick, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what?
Ooh, the first Pirates of the Caribbean. I would play that one. The first one. Only the first one. The first one, and that is it. All the rest of it can go. But that would be
But the
that
first
would be
one
fun.
mostly happens on ships, which I think would take away from some of the.
They can
going
add in
through
some other stuff.
Yeah. If they
Also, Uncharted 4 is very piratey.
Well, actually, I was also going to say, what if they just finally up and did it, and instead of making another Uncharted, they just made an Indiana Jones game?
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Like, just,
Ooh.
it's like, we all know what we've been basically doing with Uncharted, but let's actually make it official. You know?
What if they just
Yeah,
made
that's
Indiana
fair.
Jones and the Secret of Atlantis, like remade that as a modern game, right?
I'm in.
Because that's one of the better Indiana Jones games that
Yeah.
already exist.
Back in the point and click days.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. Any other ones before we move on? I'm trying to think.
You know what?
I was gonna say Doom, but it's already a game.
Something Star Wars? Maybe?
Oh,
Or
we have
Star
so many
Trek.
Star Wars games already. Maybe Star Trek.
I don't know.
I can't think of like.
I'd like to see a sci-fi done
Mhm.
that way, with like exploring stuff and like story and action. But
I think
Star Wars
Dune-
has been done.
I think Dune would be the best for that because you're on a planet and you can navigate areas and terrain. You know what I mean? Spaceships
Yeah.
wouldn't really work well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the movies and stuff I watch, they don't have stories to them.
What?
They just have a bunch of
There's a lot of
Teenage
like
animals.
explosions and fight scenes. So like they wouldn't lend well to like a 30-hour.
Yeah, that's why I said
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, right?
Yeah, that would
Because
be.
it's a long journey.
Or
Yeah.
finally a decent Harry Potter game,
Well, one of those is coming already, so we don't need it.
allegedly.
No, I think it's confirmed at this point.
I hope so.
Harry
we
Potter.
need that.
Huh?
Harry Potter.
Tell me, how long have you hated trans people?
Ooh, that's a hot take.
Yeah, we won't get into that one.
Too
We
spicy
no.
for
won't
this
get into that
podcast.
whole-
Let's keep the art and the artist separate. All
Yeah.
right.
All right. Speaking of Star Wars, we are going to play Rank the Significance with the Star Wars film franchise. So we're going to take the mainline series, the originals, the sequels, and the prequels, and we're going to put them in order from top to bottom. What we think. I think I should get to type this one down so we have a list when we do it.
Yeah.
All right, what do you guys think? Let's start at the bottom. What's bottom tier Star Wars? And this is not counting Han Solo or Rogue One or The Mandalorian, just the main numbered series.
Well, from
And are
what
we
I
talking like
hear-
cultural significance?
No, we're talking just good or bad movies.
Okay.
Well, I think cultural significance. I'm going to tie that into a movie, but that won't be my only basis for it.
Yeah, I mean, it would play a part, obviously. I think it's
Yeah.
part of the whole package.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think? Worst Star Wars movie, what is it?
Well, I hear it's the most recent one, but I haven't actually seen it. So, I'm going to
The problem is the most recent one is a live action anime.
Yeah, so
It's ridiculous. It's over the top. It's so dumb, but it's so much fun.
I'm going to say episode 1. Maybe
I'm
2.
going to disagree with you and say episode 2 is the worst Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Attack of the
I'll
Clones?
concede that I
Yeah.
haven't watched
Yeah.
prequel. Like, I watched everything in the prequel trilogy exactly once. So,
Yeah.
All right. So we're locking it in. The worst Star Wars movie is Attack of the Clones.
Yes.
I
Just
feel
skip
good
that
about
one
that.
and watch Clone Wars instead.
I feel good. Yeah, that's actually good advice.
Yeah.
So wait, why is the second one the worst?
It's filled with so much cringe and bad CG and poor acting from Hayden. What's his
Christensen.
name? Hayden Christensen and why can't I remember their names now? The girl that plays Padme,
Natalie Portman.
Natalie Portman. Dooku's no good. Like, yeah, it's just not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the first one because that was the most personally disappointing one to me.
Really?
Yeah, because
Even
I
the-
saw it in theaters, and
Me
I was
too.
in grade 6. And what happened
I-
was, like, I'd built it up. I'd watched the re-releases of the original trilogy,
Yeah.
and me and all our friends, we got our tickets, and we'd been reading the extended universe books, which got a few shades. I wouldn't say darker, but they just got a little bit more realized, you know?
I've
And
read
so
them
when
all,
I-
man.
Yeah, so I saw some on your shelf too. So when I
Yeah.
went into the theater and sat down and like, just between Jar Jar.
So you're
and-
telling me that grade 6 Matt, you're like 12 years old, didn't like the Darth Maul lightsaber fight at the end. You didn't like pod racing.
You know what? Those parts were kind of cool, but it was. I remember us all walking out of the South Keys Theater as a group, and we were all kind of silent. And then someone was like, "That was pretty good," and we were like, "Yeah, silence." and then I remember Ben Kane being like, "I'm gonna go to Future Shop and buy the Pod Racer game," and it's like, "Yeah, that's cool. The Pod Races were pretty cool." And it was like, it wasn't like we walked out angry or whatever. It's just like we expected to be up here, and we were here. You know, like there was a sense of disappointment, and that day, no one would vocalize it. You know, but it was just it wasn't what we expected. And yeah, the Darth Maul thing was kind of cool, but like, do you remember in the promotional material how much they built up Darth Maul, who said next to nothing, and really only showed up for one fight at the end where he killed the best actor.
Yeah.
And like, and then died himself. And it's like, you know, you got the feeling
but
that
not really.
But he didn't die though.
Well, for all
he's in Clone Wars.
You mean Clone Wars, the animated series they made decades later?
It's canon, apparently. I didn't. I learned that. It was jarring to me too.
It's canon, but that's news to me. They built
and he's in Solo.
They built up Darth Maul to be like this trilogy's Darth Vader. Like I thought he was gonna be the big bad, and he was in a cool but pretty short fight scene and then died. And I'm like, well, that guy looked really cool. Too bad they didn't do more with him. And you know, I don't know.
So, I'm okay with putting episode 1 near the bottom. Yeah. I like episode 1 a lot. There's great parts in it, and I feel like it's a better movie on the whole. It's better than Rise of Skywalker as a film. It makes sense beginning to end. It goes somewhere. The next movie connects to it properly. So what I'm suggesting is that in the second last place we put Rise of Skywalker, and then right above it we put episode 1. How do we feel about that? Yeah. Because episode 3 is the best of the prequels.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're doing Rise of Skywalker.
And I remember seeing that movie in theaters, and I saw it with my friend Chloe, and we were about 45 minutes in, and she got up to go to the bathroom, and she never came back.
Of episode 1?
Yeah.
Really? Wow. I loved episode 1 when I saw it in theaters. I loved it.
So did I. And I walked to her house afterwards, and I was like, "Where'd you go?" And she was like, "It was so bad, I left."
Jar Jar didn't bother me.
You were leaving.
Young Annie didn't bother me, and now it's like so cheese. Like it still doesn't bother me. It's like Anakin's so fucking stupid. Jar Jar's so stupid. But
yeah. You know what? Now it's just coming back. Like when he's in the fighter, and he's just like.
That's pod race.
Action comedy, like blowing up a hangar, like whoa, blasting everything. Oh,
so bad.
Yeah,
it's so bad.
I'm also a little bit biased towards the prequels because my Instagram feed, every other post is a Star Wars meme, and they're all from the prequels. So I just love it to death for that reason.
Well, apparently people who were like kids then. And grew up like as children watching those prequels. They're like their fun little like child movies, and I can get that. I just
when did that one come out?
2001, I think.
No, I think it was 99.
99?
98.
99.
It was around there. All right, so far we got Attack of the Clones, Rise of Skywalker, and Episode 1. What's next after Episode 1?
Okay, so I was 9 when I saw that then. That makes sense.
99.
Yeah, 99? I was in grade 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's next, guys, after episode 1?
Okay.
Fourth worst.
Fourth worst.
Or just next in line.
Have we knocked off all the prequels?
No, we still have episode 3.
Okay, but no, we'll save that.
Revenge of the Sith.
I feel like this should be a place for the
Force Awakens.
Which one was that? I'm getting my titles all mixed up. Is that 8?
Episode 7. That was the first sequel.
Oh, yeah. So here's the issue. I hear they threw out pretty much everything from 8 when they did 9. Is this
Yep.
true?
100%.
Because I actually really did not mind 8 at all.
I loved 8. Loved it.
I liked it because it kind of subverted my expectations and it kind of messed with you and like whatever.
Same,
Yeah.
man.
But if they throw all that out, then it's
Big
just
time.
a movie that gets unsupported and goes nowhere. So they've made it worse. And in defense of 7, though they just basically told the same old story again, I fucking loved it at the time because I knew they were like it made me hopeful. I'm like, yeah, it's basically just a retread, but at least they're like in the right groove, you know?
So many possibilities. I couldn't wait to see what they were going to do with it. Here's an easy way to figure this out, all right? Are episode 4, 5, and 6 better than any of the sequels?
Yes. Hands down.
Than episode 7 and 8. Okay, so basically is episode 7 or episode 3 Revenge of the Sith in the next spot? I think that's what we're down to.
Not Revenge of the Sith.
You like that more than the first sequel?
You like that more than The Awakens?
Yes.
I mean, watching Hayden Christensen slide towards lava and catch on fire is pretty fucking awesome. But
It's great. I feel like 3 is the most coherent of the prequels. It has the best moments in it. I can take it the most seriously out of all of those movies. It has the least amount of camp in it.
yes.
You know? So I would say, honestly, as far as like Star Wars on a whole goes, I think episode 7 would be next.
Yeah, let's give it to 7.
Yeah.
And then after that, do we want
Nah, that will put 8, then 3.
do we want The Last Jedi and then 3?
Yeah, I think so. If only because all the cool things from Last Jedi didn't get followed up on.
Fair.
I'm told.
Fair.
It could have
Last
been the
Jedi.
other way around, but
And then episode 3.
Luke trolled Kylo Ren so hard he died.
So is all of the original trilogy going to be in spots 1, 2, 3 then?
I guess so,
Yes, but order. What order?
yeah. It would appear that way.
Wagging fingers.
Sam, do you not like one of the original trilogies?
I do. I love A New Hope. I love Beginnings.
Are you saying that you love Revenge of the Sith more than one of the original trilogies? Yes.
Is it Jedi?
Jedi's my favorite.
Probably.
Which one would you switch for it? For Revenge, out of those 3.
Probably Empire.
I would switch A New Hope.
Really?
Well, here's...
I think A New Hope is the weakest Star Wars movie of the originals.
So, I can kind of, like, in terms of plot, like, it's the simplest, right?
Yep.
But, and this is where significance comes in, like, A New Hope started Star Wars.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm actually going to put it at number 1. Because even though there are more interesting... It was a big toss-up for me between this and Empire. Because Empire is when, like, it really... The whole I am your father thing really digs the hooks in. Really adds this whole new layer to the entire formula.
Except that when that happened, though, when the movie came out, everybody hated it.
Well...
Yeah,
And everyone pulled their typical, like, oh, you ruined Star Wars. This is awful. And then,
that happens for literally
Oh, you
every
ruined
piece
Star-
of pop culture that comes out. Every single piece
You
of
ruined
pop culture.
Star Wars, they said.
Little did they know.
7 movies before...
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I would argue that Empire, like that, people didn't like it, but, I mean...
I don't want to use cultural significance as
Okay.
a factor. I want to use just the film on its own merits. So I wouldn't put episode 4 as the best Star Wars movie. Personally.
I mean,
you don't have a lot of Vader. You don't have Palpatine yet. Luke is not a Jedi yet. You know?
I mean,
there's a very bad lightsaber battle between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader that's cringed when you watch it to this day. It's not a bad movie. There's great dialogue. It sets up a lot of great things.
I mean, yeah, but on the other side, like, there may not be a lot of Vader, but it created Darth Vader. He's right there behind you. You know? Like, yeah, they expand on him later, but, like, that character, even without knowing who he is, his background, all that, just that suit, the breathing, all that, that intro when the stormtroopers storm the ship and they're just, like, blasting and all that. I mean, Jawas, Mos Eisley, like, there was just so much stuff that, yeah, it gets done cooler in later films, but just the creative energy of creating this universe, for me, gives A New Hope a certain something. It's at least number 2.
I'm gonna agree with you, and I'm gonna put it in number 1 spot for those reasons. Now let's figure out what 2 and 3 is. Is it Empire or is it Return of the Jedi?
Did we figure out all the other ones? All the other 6?
I feel like Jedi took a step down when they redid it and put Hayden Christensen at the end.
Oh. No, but that wasn't the original version.
I know, but... Okay, we'll ignore that. Shit, Jedi or Empire?
I really like Return of the Jedi. It has that excellent Palpatine stuff. It has Darth Vader's switch over, the Ewoks, Endor, the second Death Star.
Yeah.
The scene with Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, and Palpatine on the viewing deck there is legendary. Their lightsaber battle is fantastic.
That's
and even though it's not like super finesse and like ninja style like the prequels, it's like really raw and like hateful between. You can see Luke is angry, right? And the sword fighting really reflects that. I like that a lot.
Well, yeah, because they actually had a guy who like a Claymore longsword fighter trained for those films.
It's the same guy that did all of the fight choreography for Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and the
I don't think
the Princess Bride.
Between Jedi and Empire, Jedi's definitely better for sure.
I think so, but then Empire, you finish with Han Solo and Carbonite. You have Vader and Luke's confrontation. You find out he's his father. It's Cloud City and Lando, and he double crosses them. Like, there's lots of good stuff in Empire
and
too.
Then there was a triple
there is, but
Yoda, you have Yoda.
Yeah.
It's the middle story. Like, the middle story's always the odd one out. It's never quite as satisfying as the beginning and the end.
I am, like, painfully aware of the fact that I have made very passionate arguments for both of these films being the best at various points in my life. I have been on both sides of this.
They're both very good.
They're both very good. Yeah, shit.
I'm okay with doing Empire Strikes Back as number 3 and Return of the Jedi as number 2.
Yeah.
I think they're both amazing films, but the way that Jedi finishes it can't be overlooked.
Yeah, but at the same time, Hoth.
Hoth is great too, but then you have Endor.
You have Endor, but like there was just something so.
You have Yoda dying, like.
Yeah, you do, but there was just something so fucking awesome about the battle for Hoth. Like
Empire is great sci-fi. It's really good sci-fi.
Yeah, I just really like that kind of desperate like trench standoff, and then the walkers coming out and just. Oh, and the and Luke, like his force powers. I really don't want to say awakening. But you know when
he's discovering them.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll ask you two then. Final decision: is it Jedi or Empire? Between the two of you, which one do you think?
I'm gonna say Jedi number 3 because I feel like you guys want Jedi as number 2, and I want to represent a different thing. I'm just being contrarian. No. Yeah, I guess Empire would be number 3 only because it starts with them on the run and ends with them still kind of on the run. You know, like
yeah.
It's just an entire movie of them getting beaten down.
Mhm.
But
All right, so our order from worst to best, the official significance of Star Wars movies: Attack of the Clones, Rise of Skywalker, Episode 1, Episode 7, The Last Jedi, Revenge of the Sith, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and A New Hope. Or just Star Wars.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, as it was originally titled. And that was our Star Wars bit for this podcast. Who knows what Star Wars stuff we'll talk about next podcast.
Every
All right,
week we'll
we
talk
can,
about
we can
something.
rank the one-offs.
Yeah. It's time for the news. So the biggest story this week is Sony invests 250 million buckaroonies into Fortnite maker Epic Games. What do we think this is going to mean? Like, how is this going to play out? Because Epic Games does a lot of things.
Yep.
They don't just make Fortnite; they make Unreal Engine, and that's very important.
Yeah. What engine?
And
What was the name?
Unreal.
What's the name of that engine?
And also, Unreal Engine is keep in mind, being used for a lot of films and shows lately. It was used on The Mandalorian to do all of their backdrops and stuff. Unreal 4.
Yep.
So, yeah, what do you guys think?
I must comb my beard.
I was looking into this one a little bit. I don't, and like I don't really know what it's gonna mean. I mean, Sony's kind of all over the place. Just because they've bought into it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be anything like PlayStation related. My guess is it's probably more like movie and distribution related, or like maybe future tech. I don't know. I don't know really enough about like Sony's business model to
Keep in mind, Sony has the rights to Spider-Man. They have the rights to Venom. They have like a lot of film rights that are very popular right now too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it might be. I mean, they've already said it's not Fortnite related. So, like, Fortnite will not be. It'll still be cross-platform, multi-platform. There's no way Sony's getting in on that. Yeah, I think it might actually. I mean, who knows? I think it might just be. It might just be as simple as financial play. Like they've invested. They own a part of Epic now. That's what they got, right? And Epic's doing very well. They're starting their own store. So I think Sony just wants a cut. Basically, they're just like, yeah, we'll get in on that. The Epic Games Store is really quite successful.
Do you think? Here's a question. Do you think we are going to see PlayStation games on the Epic Games Store, like we've seen games from EA show up on Steam recently, and Xbox?
I think that's a very, very real possibility. I think we're seeing more like Sony exclusives, like Horizon Zero Dawn. You can pre-purchase on Steam right now. But also,
Death Stranding.
we also know that Steam tends to take a larger cut than Epic. That was a big thing that Epic used to pull people in. So maybe Sony's just like taken a look and gone, hey, there's a lot of money to be made in this PC market, but we can get a better cut with Epic. And they're just trying to like make ties with Epic. Maybe Epic will be the exclusive PC retail in the future for Bloodborne or something, you know?
Yeah, maybe. I can also see it, probably a large part of it is using the Unreal Engine, especially Unreal Engine 5, and what that's going to be capable of, not just for video games, but for series, things like that.
Yeah, maybe something... I mean, they already made that... until your game makes $1 million, you don't pay for Unreal Engine. But I guess
I think
Sony's
that's
gonna make
geared
$1 million
more
on
towards
every fucking game. So
yeah,
maybe they wanna get a more favorable deal. I don't know. Time will tell.
Yeah. It could even just be building ties that like they don't have any plans for yet, but like Matt was saying, kind of just investing in it and getting a portion and seeing where the company's going. Because I think it's like what 1% of
yeah. I think it's
total
a smart. it's just a smart business move currently because Epic is so huge.
Well, also, I mean, Sony is also trying to produce a next generation console during a global pandemic, so that can't be cheap. That can't be cheap or particularly effective. Maybe this is just another revenue stream to try and offset the cost. Speaking of which, I don't know if I sent it to you guys in the group chat. Did I send you that thing about Sony's manufacturing?
No.
For the PlayStation 4. They completed this. It's kind of cool. Just random tidbit. In 2018, Sony completed a factory that's almost fully automated. It has like 80-some robots. It pumps out one PlayStation 4 every 30 seconds, and the entire assembly line requires 4 people. 2 to feed the parts in at the front, and 2 to package it at the back. And that's it. So 4 people, 1 factory, 1 PS4 every 30 seconds. Manufactured.
Robots making robots.
Yeah, and that makes it pandemic-proof, kind of. Except for those 4 people. But, you know, I'm sure you can social distance in a giant factory.
Well, Sony's been on record during the pandemic saying that the pandemic has not affected their release date or, you know, their development of products for the PS5 at all. Yeah. Don't worry about it, basically.
So, yeah, if they once they shift that factory over to making PS5s, they can make them pretty cheap. Robots don't take breaks.
So there was a job listing that popped up a couple days ago for Naughty Dog, for a developer, for a next-gen single-player title. So it looks like Naughty Dog is already hard at work on whatever they're going to make next, post Last of Us Part 2. Clearly we have nothing to go on as far as what that's going to be, but my question is, what do you guys want to see next from Naughty Dog? Because Uncharted is done, we know that. There's no DLC plan for The Last of Us Part 2. So what kind of game do you want to see to make?
Uncharted done?
Yep.
Like completely?
Done, man.
So yeah.
I mean, not just the Nathan Drake part, but like as a franchise.
Yeah, they've said no more Uncharted. A Thief's End was the last one.
Well, I was gonna say I would like a Sully game, but
that'd be cool.
Young Sully.
Oh yeah, that would be cool. Yeah. That would be good DLC.
What do you guys think? Do you want more like single-player narrative-driven stuff from Naughty Dog, or do you want them to branch out, maybe do like an RPG or something like that?
I would like something. I would like something in the Uncharted fun adventure vein. I would like something like that. Give me colors. Give me grappling hooks. Give me, you know, like I vastly prefer that side of Naughty Dog to like say The Last of Us, more like gritty stuff. You know, I like the Uncharted games, which is good fun. I'd like something like that. You know.
I can agree with you. I love Uncharted, and I grew up loving Indiana Jones and that kind of story. Yeah. So it would be awesome if we got more of that, but the chances of them making an Uncharted style game that's not Uncharted, I'd say, are probably pretty small.
Yeah, no, I think if anything, if you're gonna do another Uncharted style game, the logical continuation would be the daughter.
That's what a lot of people are hoping for.
Yeah.
That would be really cool. That was a great ending to that game.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see her like follow in her father's footsteps for sure.
Yeah, I would love that. Obviously, we all want a mature, gritty Crash Bandicoot.
Did you know that there's an Easter egg in The Last of Us 2, which is Crash Bandicoot porn?
You just ruined my next joke, but no.
There's a Crash Bandicoot porno magazine that you can find in one of the buildings that like a makeshift camp is in.
Booga booga.
Yep.
So in penis-related news.
Yeah.
That should be a segment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything else before we move on, Sam?
Yeah, you guys pretty much covered it. I do enjoy more story-based games. Although I wish there was a little bit more free range in terms of things like Uncharted. Like, I think out of all the games I've played, God of War seems to have the best mix of things that I enjoy. Like, I love the story stuff in Uncharted, but it would drive me crazy when it's like if you're climbing up a mountain or whatever you're doing, it's like this is the exact path that you have to follow. So I'd love a little bit more free range, where like the story aspects are like the main plot line is set in stone and very easy to follow, but that you had a little bit more free range, but not totally open world. I'm done with open world. There's too much stuff to do. I don't need to find 200 of the same collectible just for a stupid trophy. So more story based would be great. Something along the Uncharted lines with just like a little bit more flexibility in how to get from point to point would be cool.
I'd love to see them take their huge budget and just, their graphics engine and how good their games look and put it towards something dark fantasy. Something like a Dark Souls world, but with a clear narrative and a clear path. Not so obtuse. Not really using it in a negative connotation there, but just
no, I know what you mean.
Straightforward. Straightforward.
Yeah.
All right. Next in the news, Capcom reports 80% of its game sales are digital.
Of course they are. It's 2020. It's 2020 and we're in a global pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't go to the store to buy anything.
The real question is, do we think this trend is going to continue? And do we think digital sales will take over physical sales? Like for the most part?
I would say probably 100%. Whether it's something that was market driven or pandemic driven. I know for me, like the last 6 months, all the games I bought have been digital, and I've just gotten in the habit of doing that now. So I probably will. If I don't have to go to GameStop, I won't. And the fact that you save like $10 when you buy them digital,
and you're not harassed by employees.
Yeah, and I don't have to spend $3 on insurance for a game, which I always buy. I don't know why, but
because
yeah,
that one time it doesn't work. Whenever that happens,
that one time I buy a $90 game.
Literally never happened.
Yeah,
never happened.
Never happened.
Yeah,
but yeah, I'll probably stick with it. It's just a new habit of buying them digitally.
Yeah, I'm very comfy with getting digital now, and I'm at the point in my life where I'd rather just be dead than set foot in an EB Games. At this point, has nothing to do with coronavirus. I just don't want to talk to the employees. I don't want to be asked for insurance or pre-orders or be asked that 4 or 5 more times before I leave. Like, just give me my game, shut up, and that's it.
Take
I just
my
don't
money,
want to do
give
that.
me my shit, get out of my face.
Yeah, it's cheaper to buy it online. It's easier. It's there.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about disc being lost or broken.
Yep.
I held off on buying digital for so long because I didn't quite understand how the hard drive on the PlayStation worked. And every time I went to like delete, okay, I'm not a computer person. Every time I went to go delete something, I had to text my friend from EB and be like, so when I delete this game, it doesn't delete my save data. And every time he'd be like, yes, you're fine. You can delete the application, you can load it in again, and your save files will still be there. And I probably asked that question like at least 20 plus times. So but like even having the disc doesn't change that. But like there was something about having the disc, I thought it would like keep my save files, which it wouldn't if I bought it digitally. So I don't know, but making the switch, I'll probably never buy a disc again.
Yeah, so it's cheaper for everyone, digital. You don't have to worry about losing discs, scratch discs, anything. Really the only, and it's more a hypothetical one now, I don't think this has actually happened to any big title, but the only real risk with digital is when you buy a game digitally, you're not actually buying the game. You're buying a license to use the game. And so if at any point, like, say, 10 years from now, you have The Last of Us 2 digital, and something horrible happens to Naughty Dog or Sony, the Epic investment was a horrible mistake, they doubled down, Sony is in trouble. If Sony decides to no longer make The Last of Us 2 downloadable, they can basically end the license agreement. And now you don't have it anymore, and you can't get it. Like, this was something that gets brought up, like, I'm fucked if Steam ever goes belly up. Because I just lose my entire Steam library. There is no... I haven't I can't make an argument that I own all those games, because what I actually own is an agreement between me and Steam to get access to that content. But once the thing, like, Sony's probably fine, and again, this is pretty much just hypothetical, but theoretically, if you have a digital copy of a game, what you have access to can be changed or even removed, and you have no actual legal recourse. The second thing that I just thought of during that, and we've already seen this happen with some of the Grand Theft Autos, is I have around here somewhere a disc copy of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas from PS2, right? If I bought Grand Theft Auto San Andreas over Steam or something right now, it would not have all the music that disc has. This is just a tiny little thing, but, like, the Grand Theft Auto games are famous for licensing music. What they're less famous for is the fact that those licenses have expiry dates. So, like, every once in a while they'll have a patch that will remove music from the game because their license is up for that. It's already happened with GTA 4. So if you have a disc copy of the game, you can just pop that in, decline the update, and still have all the music and content that came with the game on release date. Whereas if you have a digital version, you're kind of fucked, because it's always going to download the most recent version, and once those licenses run out, you lose that music. That's just a tiny thing, and it only applies to games with licensed music. But yeah, I just figured I'd throw in the two minor and sometimes purely hypothetical downsides of digital.
Yeah, so the example I was going to use, and it's the first one you said, Matt, is the only downside I can think of is games getting delisted. Like PT is a good example, right?
Yeah.
You're able to download PT, and actually Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is another good one. You're able to download those games, you own them, you paid for them, and they got taken down for whatever reason, and now they're essentially gone forever. If you don't have those games in your hard drive anymore, you can't play them. So that's, I think, the one big downside, and it's not like it happens often at all, but it can happen, and it has happened. So that would be one of the, yeah.
Yeah, and I would be interested to see, like, if you had purchased Scott Pilgrim versus the World, a lot of times, like, it'll still be in your library if it's delisted, and, like, you can download it. Like, I know with Steam, there's been a few times where games, like, get removed from the storefront. If you would purchase them, you can still go and download that game in your library. It's just no one else can. You can't get a new one. Yeah. They'll make exceptions where, like, you can still grab some of those. I remember it happened in the EA times. Like, I had some EA games on Steam that then got pulled from Steam. I think, like, a Dragon Age or a Mass Effect or something. And I could still go in my library and see that I owned that game, and I could click on it and I could download it, but it wouldn't be in the store. So, but I mean, they could have just not done that and been like, no, fuck you, you can't play it anymore. Blame EA.
Yeah.
They took it back.
Just a quick shout out to Scott Pilgrim movie before we move on. If you haven't seen that movie, it's amazing. Check it out. It has a lot of Canadian actors in it as well.
Is it good?
It's really good, and it's like has a really cool, unique, like, video game feel to it. If you like video games, you'll love Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the movie. Michael Cera's really fun in it.
I saw it was just added on Netflix.
Chris Evans is in it when he was really young, like Brandon Routh, who plays Superman. Yeah. Lots of good actors. It's a really good movie. And lots of familiar spots in Toronto, which is really fun, too.
I should watch it.
More sexual abuse allegations from against the CEO of Evo come about last week, which causes the event to be canceled. So I didn't think we'd be bringing this up again after we talked about it on the last podcast, but no more Evo this year, which is pretty crazy because it's the biggest fighting game tournament in the industry.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to this one. Killer Instinct was coming back, and I love me some Killer Instinct, so I was actually really looking forward to watching that.
Yeah.
Then, in penis-related news...
we won't spend too much time on that. I feel like we talked pretty, we talked about it for a while last podcast,
Yeah.
just how we feel about all the sexual assault allegation stuff.
Yeah, how come everything I love is getting all dicked up?
Because there's a lot of dicks out there, apparently.
Yeah.
Dicks.
They dicked up the Expanse.
Dicks,
They dicked up
dicks.
dicked up Ubisoft.
Dicks
Dicked
everywhere.
up Evo.
Yep. Last on the news, Far Cry 6 leaked. So Far Cry 6 is supposed to be coming out in 2021. It's going to be shown at the Ubisoft Forward event, which is like next Sunday, which would have been their E3 press conference, I guess.
Yeah.
It takes place on the island of Yara, which is a tropical island, and it features Giancarlo Esposito, who is Gus from Breaking Bad, and he's in The Mandalorian. He plays the general at the end who has the black lightsaber. It looks like it's going to be a lot more similar to Far Cry 3. What is your experience with the Far Cry series, guys? Have you played many of them? Any of them?
Yeah. So I was like right from the get-go a Far Cry fan. The first Far Cry, though it hasn't aged super gracefully, was just amazing for me. It was a very different style of game in a lot of ways from what it would become. But it came out around the same time as Doom 3. And I was very excited for Doom 3. I had no idea what the hell Far Cry was. I enjoyed Far Cry more than Doom 3. It was a little more, at least at the beginning, before the giant monsters show up, because yeah, that happens. Genetic experiments on an island, you do end up fighting a lot of monsters. Not something the Far Cry series is known for, but it had a little bit more of like a tactical thing to it. Like there was like fire select on your rifle, and I remember like you could like lay down in the grass to steady your aim and like sneak up on encampments in this like little island. The graphics were just stunning at the time, but yeah, like set it to single fire, lie down in the grass, try and pick them off with headshots with your assault rifle. Very punishing combat. Like you died really quick, so it was almost
Sorry, go ahead.
It was almost like someone made a single-player game based around like Counter-Strike gunplay, which was interesting at the time. Yeah, I loved it. The water was beautiful, and then they just doubled down and redid it with Crysis.
That's one thing I really remember about the first Far Cry, even though I didn't play a lot of it, is it was up there with Crysis at the time as like, well, look how good this game looks. Like a shooter can look this good.
Yeah, it was the literal prequel to Crysis. It was Crytek, right?
Yeah. So
it was Ubisoft back then.
I didn't play many of the Far Cry games after that, and I tried the first Far Cry game of like the new formula, and I can't remember what it was called, but it was with that
3.
dictator on the island. Was that 3?
On the island, not the Himalayas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definition
It was
of
the one-
insanity.
The blonde guy?
That one.
Definition.
The definition of insanity.
No,
that
yeah.
one.
Voss.
So I played that one. For some reason, it didn't click with me. But oh man! So my cat just saw like a chipmunk and freaked the fuck out.
Yeah, I know. We saw that and heard it.
But I did play Far Cry 5, which was the last one, and I really enjoyed it. For whatever reason, it was a really big open world and had a lot of fun stuff. Like you could get attacked by cougars and wolverines and things like that. It had a lot of different weapons. It looked really good. The shooting felt really good. So I could be into a new Far Cry game.
Did you ever play Blood Dragon?
No, I never did. I didn't play any of the DLC stuff.
It was short, but it was pretty fun.
Sam, do you have any interest in this at all? Or are you just going to stay away from Far Cry in general?
Probably just stay away from it, and for no reason other than I've never played any of them. I don't quite understand what they are. Like, I've seen all the trailers, I've seen stuff from them at Fan Expo, I've seen some clips online, and it's just a franchise that, in terms of where I'm at in my video game career, I don't have the time or money to jump into something that I'm not super invested in. There's just enough other games out there. I'm good. I'm sure they're great. People seem to love them. Like, the people who play them say they're super, super fun. And I don't doubt that they are, but I got too much other stuff
They're just single-player sandbox shooters.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
basically it.
Well, a little versatility in how you approach things.
Yep.
I just want to take a moment to bring up Far Cry 2 because it was probably the weirdest of the whole franchise. And it's also where a lot of the defining characteristics of the franchise came in, like the fact that like everything is animated. You know, in the first Far Cry, if you're in a vehicle and you want to switch to the gunner seat, you hit a button and you just sort of teleport there, like in Battlefield and other games. Whereas, like, Far Cry 2, it was kind of a big deal at the time that everything was animated. Like, if you switch positions, you see yourself climbing around out of one seat and into another. But you had malaria. That was a mechanic. So you go to Africa as a mercenary, and you almost immediately contract malaria. And every once in a while, you'll have, like, a flare-up, and your vision will get all blurry, and you have to take your pills. And you have to scrounge for these pills, and that's just a constant mechanic. It's very dry. They had a real, like, fire system where if you throw a Molotov cocktail in some tall grass, you better keep an eye on where that fire spreads because you could very quickly burn yourself down. But you could use that, like, a flare gun in that game was awesome when you're attacking, like, an enemy position because you can fire a flare over here behind them and over there behind them, and that'll start fires, and then the fires will join into a huge fire, and suddenly they can't go that way, and the fire burns them towards you, so you can, like, burn them out. Yeah, it was weird. And also, while we're on the subject, can we talk for a few minutes about the Crysis remaster, and how somehow they've managed to make it look worse over a decade later than the original Crysis did?
I feel like that's just going to fall into what happens to games like Duke Nukem, where they just wait way too long, and then it's trash when it comes out.
You know what? Like we can talk about this later. I'll send you guys, but there's like comparison videos of like 2008 like PC footage of Crysis, and then the remaster for like I don't know if it's current gen or next gen consoles. The remastered looks worse. Like, the textures are muddier. The lighting is worse. It's like... I know Crysis was God tier when it came out, and it actually still looks very fucking good. But, like, I was watching the comparison, and they're like, the original, the new, and I'm like, is this supposed to impress me? And then finally, like, the subtitles made it clear, like, no, this is not impressive.
The thing with Crysis is that while it looked very good at the time, it was never really a good game. So, like, why even bother?
Oh, it was
just
a great
let it
game.
be. I never really liked it.
I
didn't enjoy it.
It was like kind of more like it wasn't like non-stop action. It was like stop and observe, and then be like you have all these powers, and it was like just fuck them up.
Just fuck them up.
Also, I love the fact that on the hardest difficulty, the enemies actually speak Korean, so you don't know what they're saying about you.
Talking about StarCraft.
Yeah, because the enemies are North Korean, right? So on the lower difficulties, they'll be like, I'm flanking around or throwing grenade or whatever, and you can kind of like hear their chatter and know what they're trying to do to get you. But on the hardest difficulty, they speak Korean.
Cool. One more thing, not in my notes, I just wanted to touch on it. It just popped into my head. Jeff Keighley did a documentary on Half-Life Alyx called The Final Hours. That's apparently out on Steam right now and very good if you wanted to check it out. It's like a little bit of a... I guess like a book or an article and like a little bit of a movie at the same time. I haven't watched it. It's like $10, but it is cool just because all these years waiting for more titles that I love from Valve. It confirms that at one point they had Half-Life 3 in full development. They had Left 4 Dead 3 in full development, and they apparently were also working on a Dark Souls style RPG that they trashed a couple years back. So all of these things could have come out. Yeah. Matt, I feel like you would probably really enjoy that. Apparently it's very good.
Yeah, that's interesting to me.
All right, so it's time for our community queue. We're going to take a question this week from Albert, a.k.a. Wild Rice, a.k.a. the Asian Hulk Hogan. He asks, what are some of your most emotional gaming moments? So angry, sad, happy, what have you, that are really special to you, that stick out? Who wants to throw one out?
Metal Gear 3. The end of... Actually, no. I'll say the end of Metal Gear and Metal Gear 3 for like... 3 for like just like kind of a twist and a shock and like a real like kind of gut punch moment.
Yeah.
1 for like a... one for like a holy shit, that was a really awesome experience moment. And 2 for a what the fuck was that moment. Like, 2 is a really weird fucking game, and when it ended, I was just like... I just sort of put the controller down and was like kind of in denial that that was what the game was. And it took me like a really long time and a 40-minute critical close-up by Super Bunny Hop for me to actually appreciate that game for what it was. And now, like, I really love it, but holy shit, man. Metal Gear 2, playing it on the PS2 for the first time, not knowing what I was getting myself into, and just like the weird mix of like awesome moments interspersed with like brutally, how could you make it this mundane moment, before I realized that was the intent. Yeah.
I wrote a bunch of them down that just kind of popped into my head. One would be World of Warcraft, specifically the towns for specific races. So the feeling of playing that game for the first time as either a human, an undead, or a Tauren, and just those are the first 3 characters I made, and going from your first questing area, which you're in a little like makeshift camp. There's lots of wilderness. It's very wide open. You don't encounter too many other players. And then finally, for the first time, let's say as a human, walking up to Stormwind City and seeing the large statues and the big castles and getting in there and having 40 or 50 other players like running around the other city and just it feeling very alive was really immersive for me. And I'd never experienced anything like that in a video game before, and just seeing how fast chat was going by and everything. And then same thing on the undead side, being in the forest for a couple hours and then finding the Undercity, which is essentially the ruined kingdom of Lordaeron that gets destroyed by the Lich King and turns all of these people into the undead, who then break free of his will and make the ruins of the castle their lair, essentially, which is this labyrinthian kind of catacomb-like thing underneath the castle itself. So those are 2 that really stood out for me. Another one is Red Dead Redemption 2. You spend 80 hours with your horsey. You give him a name. You buy him a saddle and you brush his hair and you tell him he's a good boy. And some asshole shoots him right in the goddamn head and he dies. And you have to sit there. They milk it, man. They make Arthur Morgan kind of like sit over the horse for a good couple of minutes as he's dying. And it was a tearjerker. And then Arthur Morgan himself dying was super sad because you spent a long time with him and his story is tragic.
Your pony died because you didn't it wasn't pretty enough.
It wasn't pretty enough. Sam, did you have any before I go on? 'Cause I had a couple more.
Yeah, a couple that come to mind that I was thinking of like this morning. One is the end of Kingdom Hearts 1. Like, honestly, out of all the game endings, I was in tears, just sobbing at the end of the game. And it wasn't even like the first time I played it. Like, any time I play through it, I cry or I start crying thinking about it. But it's one of those games where it's like the whole, like, I'm super lame when it comes to like anime and friendship and like the power of friendship and like all that lame stuff. And that's what the entire game is about. You spend the entire freaking game trying to find Riku and Kairi, and you finally find them at the end, and you can't like get to them. Like, literally, you're at the end, and like Kairi's standing in front of you, and the island that you guys originally came from starts like manifesting again, and you get like pulled apart, and it's a stupid little scene where they're like trying to reach out and like touch each other and grab their fingers, and like they just miss, and you guys get sent off in a fucking different dimensions again, and I cry every single time. So the end of Kingdom Hearts 1 is so good, and then the rest of the series just goes right off the cliff. But like that first moment was that, yeah, they were all bad after that. But yeah, that one was super good. We spent enough time already talking about God of War, so I can skip that one. Yeah, that's the main one that really stands out to me.
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, actually, I don't know why this one just popped into my head, but actually, I was surprised because I was never like, I was young when StarCraft came out, and I played it a lot because I liked RTS, but it wasn't like one of my big like favorite games. I was very surprised years later when on sale I just decided to start like playing the StarCraft 2 games. I was really surprised how much I remembered of the StarCraft story when I got to Heart of the Swarm, the Zerg game, and it's basically just a big long. For those who don't know, it's basically just a big long revenge story of Kerrigan just like fucking shit up as the Queen of the Zerg, and some of those missions where you're just swarming and just devastating like various enemies, usually Manx, especially like the big climactic music, like you have this huge swarm of Zerg and the music is just so like ominous and you're just smashing through things. It was one of the best like power fantasy moments I've ever had, and it wasn't even in like an action game. Like you were just an unstoppable force, and like I replayed that game. Like I played it on normal because I'm not like one of those StarCraft 2 amazing people. Went back, played it on hard to get all the achievements. It was, I mean, the campaign's not that difficult, but like I have so many great memories of just wrecking Arcturus's shit in that game, and then the final thing, I found that one of the most satisfying like game stories, and I don't talk about StarCraft a lot, so
No.
I feel I should bring that up.
Some other ones for me that I wrote down are obviously God of War, but we've talked about that a lot, specifically Atreus being sick, him getting the Blades of Chaos, Athena showing up, the end,
that to death.
the end with Baldur, yeah, really good. The Last of Us 2, if you want to see me talk about that for an entire hour, just go to the last video on our YouTube station channel. But biggest like roller coaster of emotions any games put me on. I felt the most real things playing video games I ever have playing The Last of Us Part 2. Resident Evil 7, man. The first hour and like a half of Resident Evil 7 is bananas scary.
Yeah.
Super fucking scary. I wish I could go back and relive the first time I played that in the dark by myself, because they make you feel claustrophobic in that house, and it looks amazing, so it feels real. And I think it's just some really just like masterfully crafted horror. It really pulls at your spooky strings. And Layers of Fear, kind of same vibe, same thing. You're just in a scary house. There's not really any ghosts for most part of the game. It's just the environment and the development tricks kind of playing around with you. Things like thunderclaps being timed with doors slamming, and like walking into a room, trying to go through the door in front of you, but it's locked, and turning around to go to the door that you went through initially, which is now gone, and you're like, fuck, and then you turn around, and then that door's gone, and then you're like, and then you turn around, and there's a big painting right in front of you all of a sudden, and just things like that. Really spooky, really scary. That's all I can really think of off the bat. I'm sure there's more. I will say that as far as making me feel real emotions outside of like power fantasy stuff, for like, ooh, this is so cool from like fantasy games, I think current gen games are the ones that have really done that for me the most, just because we're getting so close to movie quality picture. And things are just a lot more impactful because the graphics look hyper real in games like The Last of Us or even God of War. Even though it's slightly stylized, it still looks real.
Yeah.
Any other ones for you guys?
Yeah, you know what? I just have to say, the ending, the last battle. You know what? No, before the last little bit of Metal Gear Solid 4, since it was supposed to be the last Metal Gear, just the moment where Snake basically all but kills himself crawling through a tunnel full of microwaves, and you have to like keep mashing a button to keep him crawling, and like he's getting cooked alive and his suit is like exploding, and it does like a picture-in-picture thing where you're crawling there, but it's showing everyone you've come to know from these games in similar perilous last stand things to music. And like by the end, you're mashing X to just get him to move, and he's barely moving. And then that leading into the final boss fight with Liquid Ocelot, where they actually change the health bars, the move set, and the music to match all 3 games. Like, so it starts and the health bars become like Metal Gear Solid health bars, and your attacks are Metal Gear Solid attacks, and you fight like you fought in the first game, and then it goes into the second phase, and it adds like the stamina bar that came in 2, and now you move like in Metal Gear Solid 2, and it's Metal Gear Solid 2 music, and then it goes into the third one, which has the health, like the food bar and everything, and like it keeps evolving. And just thinking that this was the final like boss fight in the entire series, it brought me back to everything I loved about every game leading to that point. And just the feeling in the cinematic when it starts and both characters are essentially on their last legs, and they have these little fox die is killing them, and they have these little sort of syringes each that they keep injecting themselves with to like keep the symptoms at bay, and they're just so run down, and like they're fighting and smashing each other, and then it ends with them like basically collapsed, trying to fall forward on each other, and like kind of with their head over each other's shoulders, and then they get enough strength together that they headbutt each other and fall to their knees, and their last 2 syringes sort of fall on the ground, and they kind of look at each other, and they look at them, and they each grab one and inject the other, saving each other's life so they can have a final good fight. Oh man, that was powerful. That was powerful. I'm going to watch that on YouTube when we're done this. I'm going to watch it again. Now I'm just talking about it.
Kojima knows how to make a video game, goddammit.
Oh man.
Yeah, I'll bring up, I guess, Death Stranding, since we're on Kojima. That game lived in my head for several weeks after I was done, and not a lot of games do that. It's a really cool, unique game. But also the feeling of solitude while you're playing as Sam Porter Bridges and you're going between point A and point B delivering packages. The game does a really good job of making you feel like completely alone, I guess, and that's very cathartic. I can't think of another game that's made me feel like that. If there's nothing else, it's time for bets.
Awesome.
All right.
Actually, there is one quick thing, and it's very, very quick. It's actually not a video game thing; it's a trailer thing, and it's StarCraft 2 again. The Protoss trailer, when the 2 Templars form into the Archon, and it's like power overwhelming. Man, I forgot how awesome Archons were in the original StarCraft, and like. When I was watching that trailer for the first time, and I'm just like, oh shit, are they gonna, and then they do, and then it says that word, like, chills. That's it.
I'm like that with any Assassin's Creed trailer.
Yeah, if we're talking about trailers, World of Warcraft knocks it out of the park as far as making you feel that way. The first one, Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King specifically, seeing Illidan in like CG at the end, at the climax, amazing, gave me chills. And then seeing Arthas like unleashes undead legions and everything, like amazing.
It was more. It was more that like that moment in the trailer is something ripped straight from the game. Like it's not. It's not like. It's not. Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things. You know how some trailers, though they're cinematic and everything you see in the trailer you can do in the game. A great example of that would be the Left 4 Dead opening trailer, where it's like this big action scene, but like, though it's stylized and cinematic, everything that happens in that trailer is a gameplay mechanic. From the smoker wrapping you up, don't wake the witch, all that. It was,
Left 4 Dead, great game. It's time for bets. It's not actually next week. It's the following Friday, but we're recording the podcast that day or the day after, so it's fine. Xbox is having their next Xbox Live event when they are apparently going to show a lot of their first-party games and gameplay, things they didn't at the last event, and they caught a lot of flack because of it, so I feel like they're really going to come out swinging this time. The bet is, how many seconds will Master Chief be on screen during that event?
I actually have I have a bet here, but before we show our bets,
Mm-hmm.
I have a qualifying thing. If they show gameplay and you're playing as Master Chief, does that count?
No,
his hands
because
are holding the gun, right? So technically you could argue he's on the screen, but
I'm going to say specifically for this bet, actually seeing the full form of Master Chief, whether it's just his head or his torso,
yeah, but
or
it's
the entire
external
form.
camera looking at Master Chief.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Matt, what is your bet?
20 seconds. I think they're going to milk it a lot. I think they're going to, probably have some other sort of thing. I don't think he's going to come in until... They're going to build anticipation, and then you'll see him, and you'll get a good 20-second look.
I was thinking along the same lines. My bet is 25 seconds of Master Chief. Sam?
Damn. Well, I have the high bet. 207.
Oh.
3 minutes and 27 seconds?
This
So
could
the
be
whole-
a very, very long presentation. They
So
have
the
a
whole
lot
trailer,
to make up for.
The whole trailer has to be Master Chief.
Well,
Basically.
honestly, that's actually kind of... If there's a conversation and Master Chief is present, and it goes more than 30 seconds, Sam wins.
Yeah. We
Yep.
said,
Or, I guess
and
not.
we said conference-wide, too, so it doesn't just need to be the trailer. If they show Master Chief at any other time during, montages or something like that, that counts towards
Watch,
the
they
time.
have, a banner of all their characters visible at all times, and Master Chief is there, so the entire conference he's visible.
Yeah. Hey, Sam would win the bet.
Yep. I'll
All
get
right,
my teeth ready.
It's time to settle up from last week. So last week we bet on how many times we would see the word gameplay in The Last of Us Part 2 reviews from Easy Allies, Kotaku, and IGN. Sam bet 14 times. Matt bet 15 times. I bet 6, and the actual number 5 times. I'm assuming, I thought we would honestly see it more, but I'm assuming high-tier reviewers probably like to avoid words like gameplay and experience and things like that, which is why I made the low bet. Anyway, I'm the winner this week. That means I get to close the podcast. So a couple things as I do. We are going to try out a D&D, Dungeons & Dragons group stream on Twitch, just for something to do. We all love Dungeons & Dragons, I think. So I wanted to pose a question to the viewers of the podcast. I think a lot of our Twitch audience watches this podcast. So between these three things, which would you guys like to see the direction that we go in? So science fiction, high fantasy, or cosmic horror?
What about actual cannibal Shia LaBeouf?
No Shia LaBeouf D&D. So science fiction could be anything from Star Wars to Alien to Prometheus, stuff like that. High fantasy, World of Warcraft, Diablo, Lord of the Rings, those kinds of things. Cosmic horror, any Lovecraft, Bloodborne, I guess even maybe Dark Souls a little bit. But yeah, which one of those would you like to see us go along? Because I'm going to be the dungeon master, so I'm going to write the narrative, and I would be stoked to write about any of those things because I love them all.
Mm-hmm.
And my last word of the podcast is the best Star Wars scene in history is Darth Vader killing all those people in Rogue One at the end of the movie.
Oh, fuck yeah.
And my quote, I know half of you half as well as I'd like, and I'd like less than half of you half as well as you deserve. Bye.